Hey everyone, Matron StarCraft here, casting a game for you today for Force Strategy Gaming. I've been a big fan of their site for a long time. They always have great strategy discussions and videos, as well as more analytical casts, which is something that I like to focus on in my own casting. So when they approached me about working with them, casting games for them, I jumped at the opportunity. This will be the first cast I do, and it's going to be a mirror matchup, vileEchoic, the 3400 point Masters level Terran, against his opponent ThisIsJimmy, the blue Terran, in the eastern position of Metalopolis here. Again, 3400 Masters level Terran, so two very high level players. And I don't usually like doing mirror matchups. They tend to go much the same way. Every single game, PvP is 4-gate against 4-gate. TvT, often Marines, Tanks, and Vikings versus Marines, Tanks, and Vikings. And then ZVZ can be a little bit different, usually Speedlings, Banelings, sometimes Roaches mixed in there. But mirror matchups tend to not be that great for strategy discussion, and often make for some pretty poor games in general. But this one I thought was a great game. I have previewed it. One of these players really deviates from the standard Terran build quite a bit, as we see both players just getting up their initial barracks at this point, not deviating too much. But as the game progresses here, you'll see one of these players really differ from what usually happens in this TvT at the very high level. So you see already deviating a little bit. ThisIsJimmy creating these structures at the front of his ramp. So walling off a little bit, he's going to be able to control the flow of units into his ramp. And Echoic sort of going for a more close to home build. He's keeping everything very close to his command center. That's going to cut down on travel time for his SCVs. And he's also going to be able to deny some scouting if he's able to position some Marines at the top of his ramp. Any sort of SCV or Marine poking its head up here, not going to be able to see too much of his base since he's very close to home. Looks like getting up the refinery, both players again very close in timings, both getting out that first Marine, the supply depot as well. ThisIsJimmy sending out that SCV a little bit earlier than his opponent. He's going to be scouting in the wrong direction, and I fear that the Marine coming out for Echoic is going to be able to deny any sort of information. A lot of times we'll see the Marine at the very top of the ramp. I actually like this positioning at the bottom of the ramp for Echoic. He's going to be able to take some shots at that SCV, perhaps deny it access to the ramp at all. That SCV wants to get up here, see how many racks and the gas timing that his opponent's going for. Now we see Echoic sending out his own SCV scout, and he does have two Marines at this point, so they're definitely going to be able to take down the approaching SCV. Jimmy trying to get around these Marines, but easily taken out. And we see Echoic adding a second gas, getting that up and running. If we check the income tab for both players, it is 17 to 16. Again, Jimmy just losing that one scouting SCV, and now we see double factories being added for Echoic. So already deviating quite a bit from the normal TvT. ThisIsJimmy getting up a command center after his 1 racks. So very light on the Marines at this point. He's got 1 Marine at his base. He's got 2 in the southern position, so maybe trying to anticipate this SCV moving down here to scout, trying to take it out before he can get it into ThisIsJimmy's base. So both players doing a very nice job trying to deny any sort of information to their opponent. We see these Marines taking a few shots at this SCV, eventually able to take him down. Echoic has taken this Zelnaga watchtower in the center. And on this Metalopolis map, especially in these positions, these northern and these eastern positions, and especially with these two races, Terran versus Terran, we could see quite a bit of drop play. Terrans usually like to get their medevacs up and running early on to heal up their stim Marines and Marauders, but they can also be used for drops and are often used in this high level play. So just very small distance between these two players' ramps, or between the two players. Actually long distance between the two ramps. The ramps sort of opening up away from your opponent, so they are sort of close positions by ground, but much closer by air. And we see Echoic getting out a few Hellions here. He's about halfway done his pre-igniter training as well. So those Hellions going to be very good, perhaps to get some sort of harassment, maybe a drop harass. ThisIsJimmy coming out with a Reaper, which is a strong scouting tool in this TvT matchup. And again, he hasn't gotten any scouting information at all. So hoping to take that tower and then perhaps jump up into the base of Echoic. So at this point, neither player really knows what the other's going for. ThisIsJimmy has this command center, or the orbital command, still in his base, so he's dropping double the mules. He hasn't yet landed it in his natural. It's a smart move at this point. Doesn't know what kind of army his opponent has. He doesn't know whether Echoic's going for some sort of stim timing push. And if he lands that extra orbital command in the natural, could be really vulnerable in the early going. Now it looks like Echoic pushing up there with those Hellions, and again showing the build just a little bit, as there's a lot of Hellions now on the field for Echoic. And ThisIsJimmy feeling a little bit better, not going to be landing this orbital command in the natural, and I imagine he will be taking quite the income advantage, especially working off those double mules. At this point, it's still just 27 harvesters to 29. It looks like Hellions now moving in here for a bit of a harass. They're dropped in there by a dropship, and it looks like checking the unit counting station, it is 28 to 23. So this Hellions able to take down 4 or 5 of those SCVs, disrupt mining for just a little bit, and a lot of these SCVs are quite low, so just 1 or 2 more shots from Hellions. And at this point, ThisIsJimmy has the fear inside of him. All players know that. When your opponent has dropped into your base, you know more drops could be coming, so now he's going to have to keep some units in his base spread out just a little bit, as well as in his front door. So if Echoic goes for more of a traditional push in the front door, the units in ThisIsJimmy's base are going to be a little bit slow to react. Echoic getting out this Viking, and it's going to be the first Viking on the field, so it's going to give him air superiority. He's going to be able to do a lot of scouting here, and any sort of Vikings or medevacs which come out for ThisIsJimmy, as we see him adding a factory, perhaps to tech up to starport and get out those medevacs. They're going to have a very rough time against this Viking. Checking out the production structures of Echoic, he has these 2 factories up, and he's got 2 starports as well. So sort of going in from a 1-2-2 build, and it looks like he has some Banshees. So we may see a bit of a dual harass here from a Banshee, as well as a drop of more Blue Flame Hellions. And it looks like Echoic taking this opportunity to expand, so going to be harassing here just a little bit, moving up with these Hellions, but the units of ThisIsJimmy stimming up. They're going to try to take down these Hellions very quickly. The Hellions want to get those Marines into a line and just roast them. It looks like they're able to take down a number of Marines. And now the Banshee going to work on these gas SCVs. And again, the SCVs from the gas, very nice to take out. A lot of times your opponent will not remember to resaturate. We see ThisIsJimmy has 2 on this one. So we'll see whether he's able to resaturate, as the Marines and that well-placed missile turret able to take down that Banshee. But also taking down a few SCVs there. And again, has not added harvesters to this gas. So it looks like Echoic actually going for a double expand. This one about 2/3 of the way done, this one only about a 1/5 of the way done. So feeling very comfortable here. He's got air superiority, he's got a number of Vikings just chilling out here with a medevac as well as some Banshees, sort of owning the air like a biker gang. They're going to go see what they can kill, taking down that SCV. It looks like they're going to be protecting their little Marine buddy here, as that Marine is going to be healed up, almost taken down by the 2 Marines of ThisIsJimmy. But again, the Banshees and the Vikings are very powerful in the early going here. They're really going to be able to control the airspace between the 2 players, as ThisIsJimmy now working off of 4 racks and a factory, preparing a reactor perhaps for this starport. If we check the income tab, it is still 34 to 33, and ThisIsJimmy has not resaturated these refineries. So again, those refinery SCVs very good to take down, as players hardly ever remember at the very start. And ThisIsJimmy at this point has a nice army of Marines and a few Marauders sprinkled in there. So at some point when you're being harassed like this by your opponent, I know everybody when you're playing has to deal with this sometimes. At some point you just need to push out and counterattack and hope that their harassment has cost them valuable resources and units, and that you're able to make a huge dent in their either production structures or economy. Looks like Echoic again containing his opponent, has firm map control with those Hellions. You saw the 1 Hellion taking down the scouting SCV of ThisIsJimmy, and Jimmy trying to take this tower. If we check the production tab, it looks like 2 medevacs finishing for ThisIsJimmy, so I imagine he will be timing this some sort of attack here with those medevacs coming out. Looks like we have a scan going off by Echoic. He wants to check the production structures of his opponent, perhaps see if there are any units in the main here, preparing for another drop. If we check the unit counting station, it is 12 Blue Flame Hellions, 3 Banshees, now 15 Hellions, to the 47 Marines and 3 Marauders of ThisIsJimmy. Jimmy's got a few medevacs as well, so we could do a bit of an elevator drop here. Perhaps he'll be going for the 3rd. It looks like he has yet to scout that. So trying to get a bit of a flank here, and these Hellions going to move in and try to get a flank on these Marines, doing great damage to the Marines. Those Marines just going up in smoke, melting to those Blue Flame Hellions. A few Banshees in the back, going to be able to clean this up perhaps. as those Banshees with the 6 range outranging those Marines, and it looks like they will go down. So Jimmy just has one Marauder left. Looks like he's going to be stemming that bad boy up, trying to do a little bit of scouting here, and he will be able to find this third. So Echoic losing the majority of his Hellions there. Hellions not too hardy of units. They just have the 90 life and they are light. They have no armor, so you go down quite quickly. But if you're able to get off a few shots against Marines, they can be very, very effective. And once the Marines go down, there's nothing to hold these Banshees in check. So as long as Echoic keeps producing more Banshees, and he's got 2 more on the way, as well as more Hellions to clean up those Marines, he can do quite a bit of damage. It looks like Jimmy's stemming up here, going to try to take down those Hellions. The forces of Echoic are a little bit split. He doesn't have the Hellions and the Banshees quite together, so it looks like those Hellions going to go down quite easily to the forces of ThisIsJimmy. Now moving in, going to try to take down a number of SCVs. If we check the unit counting station, down to 39 SCVs, and it looks like he was trying to focus down this orbital command as well. Now the Banshee's finally coming in, the Vikings having to land as well, and ThisIsJimmy looks like he's not quite going to be able to take down this orbital command, as again those Banshees just doing so much damage once the Marines are down to those Blue Flame Hellions. Another 4 Hellions coming out, and 2 more Banshees on the way. Mules being dropped for Echoic, and he's got 3 bases up and saturated, so he's got 3 times the Mules. His opponent just on 2 bases. It looks like Jimmy now pushing out. He's going to do a bit of a drop, trying to take down some tech labs and reactors here. Really wants to limit his opponent's production capabilities. A canceled tech lab there for Echoic, and now it looks like the Hellions and the Banshees may be able to clean this up. No more Marines left on the field, so the Banshees are going to be able to go to town on these Marauders. Marauders stemming up, hoping to take down whatever they can. And now we see more Marines and Marauders streaming in here for ThisIsJimmy, trying to get a scan so he has sight of that high ground. But again, outranging the Marines are these Banshees with that 6 range. So able to take down those Banshees, focus firing them down first and foremost, and then able to pick off any remaining Marauders. And it looks like Jimmy going to try to come in here and take down a number of SCVs and Mules, focusing down those Mules first. That's a very smart move. But more Hellions coming out, ripping apart these Marines once again, and the Banshees just cleaning up those Marauders. ThisIsJimmy figuring this is a failed push, now going to have to come back and macro up, perhaps take another base. It looks like he's going to be doing that right now. So he knows his opponent is on 3 bases, has the superior economy. He's been harassed the entire game. He just pushed out with a huge army and it was taken down. Did a nice amount of damage to his opponent's economy, but they're pretty even here. Looks like we have Blue Flames coming in here. It's 54 Harvesters to 49. Let's see how many he's able to take out with the attack here. All those SCVs getting into a line between those production structures, taken down quite easily. So it looks like about 15 SCVs taken down by those Hellions. Saw one there with 7 kills. So a lot of damage to the economy of ThisIsJimmy. And now 55 workers and 5 mules to the 33 workers of ThisIsJimmy. So at this point, Echoic has a firm command. He's got more Banshees coming out. He's got now 3 starports with tech labs. He's got 3 factories with reactors. So pumping out Banshees 3 at a time, pumping out Hellions 6 at a time. And I imagine he's just going to be able to overwhelm Jimmy at this point. But Jimmy coming in, never losing hope. He's going to try to get another drop, taking out some more important tech labs. It looks like he's want to try to stem the flow of Banshees at this point. The Banshee's doing a smart job. He's going to group up all his Banshees and Hellions, hitting at the exact same time. The Hellions taking out all those Marines in basically one shot. And now those Marines going to be cleaned up, or the Marauders going to be cleaned up by those Banshees. At this point, he's got 8 Banshees on the field. Jimmy possibly could have just picked up all those units. It looks like Echoic doesn't have many Vikings, just 1 Viking. So could have done some damage there and just kind of gotten out of there, as the Hellions and the Banshees not able to attack air. So ThisIsJimmy could exploit that with some drops and some harassment and trying to save those Marines and Marauders instead of losing them every time. Now it looks like Echoic has been the aggressor in terms of harassment the entire game, but it's not really pushing out with 7, 8 Hellions here. And again, they were able to roast all of the Marines, and it looks like he has 10 Banshees at this point, and they're going to be able to take on all comers at this point. More Marines coming out, streaming in 4 or 5 at a time, but the Banshee's just going to be too much to handle, and not really sure what ThisIsJimmy's going to do. It looks like he's going to GG. And a very interesting build from Echoic in TVT. Again, usually pretty boring mirror matchups, tanks, Marines, and Vikings. But in this one, Echoic got out those pre-igniter Hellions. He got map control with the early Viking In the early Banshees, he was able to continuously drop into his opponent's main, get a lot of good harassment. Sometimes those Hellions went down quickly to the Marines and the Marauders, but other times they were able to do a lot of SCV damage, and then eventually those Hellions, when Jimmy did push out, were able to clean up all of those Marines, and then the Banshees were just left without any anti-air for ThisIsJimmy, and they were always able to clean up any attack that ThisIsJimmy tried to have or tried to do. Echoic double expanded there, very interesting decision. I guess he tries to go off one base for as long as he can, and then he had a lot of resources, so double expanding. ThisIsJimmy playing this one just like a normal Terran would in a TVT, but Echoic coming out with a pretty I'd say ingenious build here. It really countered what his opponent was going for, so hopefully we'll see more of this creative TVT action in the future. Perhaps this build will make its way to the highest level. Both these players 3400 Masters Terran, so already pretty high level, but maybe in the GSL we'll see some Hellions and Banshee play. So again, this has been Matron StarCraft, casting a game for Force Strategy Gaming. If you are looking for more StarCraft 2 action and analysis, check out my channel Matron StarCraft at youtube.com. Thanks for watching this one. Take care.